Restoration work has already begun in the settlements recently liberated by the Ukrainian military from the Russian occupation. Pyrotechnics and sappers of the State Emergency Service of Ukraine launched the mine-clearing operations on the territories, and the Ukrainian authorities help local residents.
We are constantly sending the humanitarian cargo to the liberated territories. Despite the shelling, the Balaklia community has already received more than 100 tons of products. Generators, building materials, medicines and other aid will also be sent there soon.
In total, almost 250 tons of humanitarian aid have already been delivered to the liberated cities and villages of Ukraine. Trucks with the new deliveries depart from Kharkiv to its region daily. Payment of pensions has also been resumed in the region. Funds have been delivered to the residents of the occupied Balaklia and Grekova with the mobile offices of Ukrposhta State Postal Company.
Now, when most ATMs on the liberated territories are not functioning yet, the only way for people to get their money is to receive it in cash. For this, Ukrposhta has organized the mobile offices, which come on the territories with all the necessary equipment. Step by step, we are returning the liberated territories to normal life. Alexei Negubov, head of the Kharkiv Regional Military Administration, on Facebook.
After the liberation of the territories of the Kharkiv region, the Russian army started to bombard them with shells. Kupiansk and the other settlements on the banks of the Oskil River are under the intense Russian artillery fire. The authorities and volunteers help residents to get to a safe place. Gathering places are not publicly announced due to the risk of the Russian shelling.
We do this operation quietly. Believe me, there are opportunities to inform people about the evacuation. Kupiansk is under heavy artillery attacks. There are no people on the streets. They hide in the basements. All this is terrible. Andriy Konashevich, deputy head of the Kupiansk Regional Military Administration, in an interview with Glavcom.
The Ukrainian leadership obliged in August all residents of the Donetsk region to evacuate in order not to suffer from the Russian shelling, not to live under their occupation, and not to become a victim of the illegal deportation. The roof was broken, the ceiling collapsed, and the windows were blown out. The Ministry for Reintegration of the Temporary Occupied Territories announces that people here may simply not survive the coming winter.
Were you hiding in his basement? Yes. Why were you hiding there? Because I was scared. Did the Russians shoot hard? Yes. When was the last time you were going for a walk? When there was no war yet.
Compulsory evacuation from the Donetsk region continues, despite the incessant artillery attacks of the Russian army.
Since the introduction of the compulsory evacuation, more than 16,000 people have already been evacuated. But let me remind you that by the time of the introduction of the mandatory evacuation, 3/4 of the population of the region had already left.
Evacuation is not a one-way ticket. The Ukrainian government provides monthly payments to each displaced person, helps them to find housing and receive humanitarian aid. Passengers of the evacuation routes can also count on lifting from Ukrposhta.
In the evacuation trains of Ukrzaliznytsia, social payments of 52 million hryvnias have been launched. Payments for temporary displaced people are made by Ukrposhta directly at the stations of the arrival of evacuation routes. More than 25,000 evacuated passengers have already received payments at the stations since May during the program. From a message on the website of Ukrainian Railways.
In Ukraine, the Prihystok, the shelter program, has been also renewed. Now, not only municipal and state enterprises, but also private entrepreneurs and religious organizations have the right to host Ukrainian immigrants, and the receiving side will receive double the amount of payments.
Compensation for the internally displaced persons will not be calculated as received income when acquiring subsidies for housing and communal services. This means that it will not affect the size of the subsidy and will not reduce it. As a reminder, the amount of compensation for the shelter of internally displaced persons is currently 450 hryvnias per month for each person. This amount will be doubled since October the 1st. From a message on the website of the Ministry of Reintegration of Temporarily Occupied Territories of Ukraine.
The Ministry of Reintegration of Temporarily Occupied Territories of Ukraine has special phone call hotlines for all Ukrainians on the temporarily occupied territories and for those who were forced to evacuate. Calls are accepted around the clock. Reported by Diana Kolesnik, Valeria Nekipelova, UATV News.